is going on, Sooner Nation? Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Barry and Mack Show. As always, myself, Barry, personal trainer, sports performance coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And alongside me, former Sooner wide receiver, 2000 national champ, Mr. Damian Mackey. How are we doing tonight, D-Mac?
Week one, college football is in the books. The good, the bad, the ugly as it relates to our Sooners. We got some things to be excited about. I think we've got some things to work on, and then we've got a couple position groups that I think everyone has had serious concerns with that we'll be discussing tonight. The landscape of college football, right? It was interesting to see some of the conferences and how they showed up to tonight's game. Obviously, it's Sunday evening, so SC showed up and gave LSU a little bit of gave them boys an L. I think that's the third year in a row, week one. LSU's
Yep, it
lost.
is.
Uh, just good to be here. You know what I'm saying? Getting our ducks in a row, man. Shout out to OU Insider. Shout out to the Barry and Mack community. Shout out to you, bro. Let's keep banging it right. Let's keep plugging along, and man, let's put together a good episode.
Absolutely, man. And we will go into the conference here later in the show, but D-Mac, we got to talk about the Sooners. Sooners in Norman, open the year, officially a member of the SEC. The SEC patch, man, it looked very good on those jerseys. The field looked great. And OU, the aesthetic of the team, we talked about this a little bit pre-show. The way the ball club looked, they are an SEC looking program for the first time. That they are a team that defensive line, backers, safeties, along the offensive line, we'll talk about that. They've got some guys. Quarterback, they've got a guy who's going to be able to hang in there. It looks like he's going to be a very, very, very good player this year. We saw glimpses a year ago, but there's a lot to love. We'll talk about maybe what some people have alluded to with there maybe being a battle there between him and Hawkins. But the team looked right. They looked like when you watch those other games, Georgia, who is, we got to be honest, call spade a spade. They are still head and shoulders above everybody else in that league. They took care of Clemson big time. Tennessee looks solid. Alabama looks solid. Florida got it taken to them by Miami, but you have a bunch of other teams. Ole Miss looked pretty good against a rum-dum. But OU looks like they belong, D-Mac. We're going to start with the good. And I think the ultimate good that the team or that the fans came away with after seeing the team play was the defense, right? Yes, you're playing Temple, who's got 45. I want to say they brought in 45 new players this season was the number, just something crazy, transfer portal. It's a real thing. You got to deal with it. You got to address it, especially a program like that. But at every level, defensive line, your edge players, your inside guys, at backer, guys like Kendall Dolby, Sam Omasigo at times. And in the secondary, you got the new guys making plays, and the old guys have gotten better, right? You got guys like Walker, who you can tell that Kanai Walker he's improved his game quite a bit. His awareness is better. He looks better athletically. The way he was moving on the field almost makes me think there may have been some injury or something else a year ago that was possibly he looks like a legit player. Safety, Bowman, Boganowski. Let's throw him in the mix, man. I guarantee you there's probably going to be some targeting calls on that young man before the season is over. But I think to a certain extent you might take him. But the team looked really good on the defensive side of the ball. You allowed 3 points, less than 200 yards of total offense, 4 of 13 on third down. Time of possession was in their favor, but 6 turnovers, D-Mac. And it was a mix, and they weren't just fluky plays. They were the Dolby pick. It was a heads-up tip, right? That was the kind of stuff, the kind of defensive IQ that you saw from your ball clubs back in the early 2000s. The keeping the ball in play, making sure you catch it and secure it, man. The only one that kind of stunk was Bowman's, that he held on to that ball on that pick. That would have been pretty sweet. And even on the fumbles, they were aggressive plays. They were big hits, whether it was Lewis Carter, causing the pick, your guy, or causing the fumble, or it was Jalil Farouk on the strip and then on the recovery. OU looked the part defensively. Unpack it for us, but maybe start a little bit with the big question mark for people, which was the defensive line. How were they going to look when they took the field? And what was going to be the impact of bringing in guys who are now elite level football players?
Yeah, I think it's really good to see that group as a unit played well. And it's even better when you say, I don't even remember Williams doing anything. Like there wasn't a key play. He wasn't head and shoulders better than the rest of the group. And not that he didn't play well, but you saw Jaden Jackson immediately show up. By the way, guys, there's 2 or 3 times he's 2 yards in the backfield. Now, you guys know this as a D lineman, you may not make the play, but you made the play. And you see some of the things he brings to the table. Halton, I've been singing his praises, and the kid showed up, man. A third year in the program, he's really agile coming off that edge. He was coming off the edge. He was playing a little bit of in between the end position too. But it was good to see Grayson play well. It was good to see Terry play well. It was good to see again Jackson play well. It's good to see Downs play well. I mean, you had a cohesive group. There's 7 or 8 guys who, at any given moment, we can depend on to make a play, to penetrate, to beat their man. And man, I'll never forget our first year doing this, belaboring, begging one of our ends to win, one of our tackles to penetrate, and just seeing our defensive line consistently slow dance with the offensive line is what I used to say. Well, I got to tell you, they wasn't doing that this time, right? This against Temple, they did what they were supposed to do. I'm not gonna get overly excited. We're not gonna rah our way, our way to thinking that this is a national championship defensive line today, but it's much better than Tulane a few years ago. It's much better than SMU last year. It's much better. Games immediately come to mind where I'm like, man, we should have dominated these guys, and it seemed like we were the less physical unit, right? Um, by far. And we're going to talk about our offensive line versus their defensive line, but our defensive line dominated their offense substantially more than our offensive line got dominated by their defense, even though our offensive line got dominated by their defense. And we'll discuss that. So looking at the group, by the way, you got to bring up Sanders and Strong. By the way, do you see how big they
Man,
look? See how big they look?
by the way,
Strong's huge.
called
You
strong.
did.
I
Strong's
said he's going to be a
huge.
dude. He needed time.
Holy
And we'll
shit, he's
talk about that.
huge. Sanders look
Enormous.
good. Sanders look good. Um, yeah, so just really good to see. Shout out to obviously the Bates and uh the crew over there, Miguel, those guys are doing a great job getting those guys ready to go. You saw Ford coming off the edge. By the way,
Yeah.
RMT looked good too, man. D line,
Best
D
he's
line,
looked.
D line looks solid. I'll talk about my reservations here in a little bit, but I definitely want to sing their praises. They were the best position group on Friday night, bar none.
Yeah, I think it really alludes to the development of this program, to the player development. When you see almost the plan taking place where you weren't able to recruit those elite guys, but some of the developmental pieces are catching up with the elite guys coming in, right? You can still see that, Dominic Williams is a different cat. Dejon Terry, to some extent, different cat in terms of just the build and the physicality and what they'll mean. Um, Guys like PJ still want to see more, still want to see them hit that next gear. But RMT, best he's looked so far. Let's move over to backers. I think Danny Stutzman, again, just proved he's a really solid player. He's a player who's going to go out there, and he looked like he's just making the simple play a little bit more often. He's a guy who, we've talked about it, he can still get caught out of position occasionally, but in this game, played really well. Lewis Carter, Kip Lewis had some big time plays. The backers, there was a play that Kobe McKenzie had, and I said 3 or 4 years ago, that play probably goes for about 20 yards. And you probably know what I'm talking about, is the little read option with that quarterback opens up wide open. It is only Kobe and the quarterback. How many times well, with programs, did you see with seasons under Riley and then some seasons under BV when he first got here that the backers, their footwork was not good. They get caught peeking inside. They were not disciplined with those initial steps. And the QB puts an easy shake and takes it for 15, takes it for 20. And to see Kobe go head up, make a phenomenal tackle. And by the way, Kip and Danny are probably the mix, man, but Kobe looks really, really, really good. Kobe physically has just absolutely transformed his body. Had he looked like that coming into Oklahoma, which he wouldn't have, but had
Right.
he looked like that coming into Oklahoma, he'd have been 5-star, all world, top 10 player, bar none, starting as soon as he got there. He looks every bit of an SEC linebacker, D-Mac. The footwork, the size, the way he hits, that tackle was just phenomenal on a guy. Just the follow through, the driving of the legs, every piece of the puzzle that you want looked really solid. Talk about backers, and then maybe go into the secondary and what you saw to guys like Dolby, Bowen, Bowman, and all the others.
Backers were good. McKenzie was the best of the backers. You're right.
Yeah,
Both Kip and Danny had some plays they overran. And by the way, very early in the game, you could see excitement, maybe a little nervousness, maybe a little overexcitement in that regard. Um, the thing is, McKenzie is a true middle backer.
yeah,
You're really lining up Danny and Kip to complement one another, and Kip is a will. And to be honest with you, Danny's a will. Danny
yeah,
does not want to take on tacklers and then clean things up and scrape across. McKenzie don't mind doing it. And you're right. When I did 10 thoughts, I said 10 and 28 and 11. Like those three are the three. Um, It'll be interesting to see what one comes and does when he gets back healthy. Obviously, we missed him on Friday, but the linebacker group, to be honest with you, they underwhelmed initially just because I expect them to be elite. And
yeah.
so, with them having such a high standard and scale, you got an All American, you've got an ex, really a plus athlete playing with him. I think without McKenzie, there would have been a little bit more concern for me. But he plays that read so well. And here, you kind of spoke to it, but to articulate why he was able to get such a flush hit on the quarterback was because he didn't overrun the play. When you overrun the play, and now the quarterback has an angle, he can stick that foot in the ground and cut across. McKenzie stayed inside out, inside out, inside out shuffle. The end went upfield and cleared that little alley, and it's just him and the QB. Well, he's a half step inside the QB, so he's like, run away. I'm inside out. I got the angle. QB had no choice, and that's called a kiss, bro. He kissed. Gave that boy a kiss. he sat him on his
Yeah,
ass, and
yeah,
really good. He had another flush hit in the hole, just really clean, crisp hit. I want to talk to Lewis Carter. Lewis Carter had some issues in passing game.
mm,
There are a couple plays he doesn't sink, and they get right behind him, and they run kind of the end cut behind him. There are a couple times they're running rub routes, and he doesn't know how to feel his way through it. And they got a couple of them down the sideline because they ran the rub, and number
yeah.
two's ran the speed out. He also didn't look extremely natural. Just it looked like he's thinking. It looked like he was
Thinking,
thinking.
yes,
Totally fair. But let me tell you, who looked really good to me. And I haven't watched the game again, really trying to analyze. 24. Sammy O, bruh,
yeah,
bro.
yeah,
He he looked the part. He was inside out. He was physical. Again, I didn't look at the game again for like assignment football, right? If I see, oh, they're in five, is he supposed to stay in the hole? Oh, they're in four. Let me see if he's carrying. I didn't look at it from that lens. But I didn't see any glaring issues the first time I watched the game, and every time he was in, I was really paying close attention to how he was playing. Um, but man, kid, Dobie graduates, and he's coming back as the cheetah. Sheesh. Speaking of Dolby, I know he's kind of a quasi backer, quasi safety, probably the best defender, yes, on Friday. The
yeah.
kid was money. He was money. He was money in pass pro. He was money bringing pressure. He was money playing in the hole. He was money tackling in the open field. Obviously, his IQ resulted in a pick, being physical with that slot receiver. And I don't know if it's a tight end or slot, but just a two, and really just getting on him and getting the ball in the air. I told you this before we started the show, but the only thing I concern myself with Dobie is will he do it every play? If Dobie does what he's supposed to do every play, he's going to be an all conference guy. The kid has just some natural grit to him. He's physical enough.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he understands his position so well. It's a position where you can have fun. And so it'll be fun to see if he keeps his mental. That for him, he has the mental opportunity. I don't know. I don't know if he's a Sunday guy, but he's definitely like an all conference,
Yeah.
a guy you're going to have to scheme. And so, and he started to show that at the end of last season. I think we can both agree. Like at the end of the season,
100%.
he was a pivotal part of the defense. And yeah, so seeing him and Sammy O, I'm excited to
Yeah.
see how that thing's gonna play out. Backers, I think I gave him a solid B minus. By the way, D line, I gave a B plus. D line got a B plus grade for me. They got
Sounds about
sacks, they
right.
got turnovers, they got pressure, they won. I like seeing the D line win. When D linemen win, the OC calls plays different. Quick game comes a lot faster. You don't get a ton of action. They stop thinking about doing wrinkles because they don't know if they have enough time to do it. It changes what you can call. So when your defensive line, it's like the Clemson game, second half, right? Clemson was like, dude, we got to get in the quick game because they could not handle the front pressure. We had the same. Obviously, Clemson and Temple are two different
Sure.
hemispheres, but
But it's still football, and you're
you,
still impacting the
you gotta
game the
play.
same way.
You gotta play the opponent in front of you. And so we've seen us play against SMU was kicking our ass last year.
Yeah. On the line
You
of
know,
scrimmage, they dominated.
and
Yeah.
they D line dominated our O line too. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But yeah, backers solid B minus. I want to see Danny and Kip be studs, and they were a little rusty.
Yeah. It's I think there's probably a little bit of development still left there to take place with guys like Lewis, guys like Carter. Danny, a little bit more surprising. With Carter, I hope he just has the same trajectory that Danny has, maybe a little bit quicker. Danny got so much better playing the pass coverage. Kip
Oh
has
yeah.
already shown improvement. Even
Oh
in
yeah.
this game, there were certain things that he did where you can tell like he's just a step or a click faster in terms of decision making, getting into his drop. Whereas a year ago, he was read, flat footed, then get into the drop. He's seeing it quicker, which to me gives you a little bit of hope. They obviously, too, were probably a little bit vanilla defensively with who they're playing. I'm
For
sure
sure.
they've got some other things that they're going to roll out there, but assignment football is still assignment football. And if you overrun the play, you miss the gap. There's not a whole lot of ways to play the gaps, right? You're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong. And in certain cases, they just missed it. Moving to the secondary, which is where there was some really good, really, really good. And then there were some moments where you'd maybe like to have stuff back. It didn't seem like anybody was ever caught extremely out of position. And some of those passes felt like backer issues more than it felt like the DBs were necessarily at fault. Just to kind of touch on it again, I love the way Kanai looks. I think Billy is playing even faster than a season ago. And man, number four out there looks very, very fluid. Of four is at Des Malone.
Malone.
Yep. You can see why he was high on that depth chart, even being a transfer portal guy. I'll say it right here. I don't know, but with bringing in a guy like Hardy too, who to me, he looked 14. He looks like a guy who can do some serious damage too. I think Woody is going to be fighting for a job this season to get some playing time. I really do. I think by the time you get fourth, fifth game, by the time they're playing Tennessee and Missouri and Texas, I think it's going to be tough for Woody to find time on that field. And this isn't the talent level, the athleticism, the whole. It is just you finally got to see it live, and it was great. Touch on the secondary, D-Mac.
We talked about it. We talked about it, right? The only reason Woody would start is because of seniority and he's nicked up, right? I was like, okay, got it. He's nicked up. But no, man, there's options. Malone did look well. He, by the way, he got housed a couple times. The receivers, you know, I always
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
those
yeah.
guys on the edge, chicken fighting. And a couple times he got housed. He got sat on his ass. But whatever, right? Never in a situation where it was going to be a game changing play. You could see they were getting on both sides. They were getting a little sketchy. But secondary looked good. You're right. There were a couple of plays where it felt like things were out of flow. I spoke to Lewis Carter was the reason on a couple of those he didn't sink. A couple twos running a vertical. I think he ran like a corner sit. He did
Mm-hmm.
two runs a corner sit, and he runs right into Lewis Carter's zone, and Lewis is kind of hugging the out, which
And he's just, yeah,
sink on the out, right, and carry the two, and then rally to the football. They hit us for about 18 yards. They ran a rub route, and it looked like they were a man. They were a man, and you could see Lewis runs into I think it's Malone actually, and the back gets up the sideline. Secondary, again, it's just like everybody else. I gave them a solid B. They tackled well, and that's something that I just have so much uh, po- PTSD when it comes to our secondary and tackling, like literally since Bob's last year's, right? I mean, guys. I mean, you just think of Noel Devine, and you think of the kid who came after him from West V, who got like 500 yards in one game against him. I forgot what that kid's name was. God dang, he killed us.
Tavon Austin,
Tavon Austin, brother, man. I
who'd
think about.
retired recently,
I
by the
know, right?
way.
I think about Worthy, like the first play of the game, 3 or 4 OU Texas ago, where he takes it 80 yards because the kid who transferred to Miami. So it's really good to see our guys tackle, play with a
Yeah,
level of physicality. I like seeing that passion. And guys, it just feels like they know what they're doing.
yeah,
I told you last year, uh, just because I had heard that Kanai was just a mental development away from potentially being the best corner. And so we're starting to see that develop in front of our eyes. I'm just telling you, the kid's every bit of 6'2.5", 6'3". He's huge. And he's fast as hell. So he's a guy who I expect to push for that position. I think by the way, Gentry
Gentry
played.
looked good too.
Gentry was out there. Malone looked solid. Jacoby was out there, 19, looking good.
Jacoby looked good too.
Yeah, so RSJ looked. I mean, the safeties look good. The corners look good. I don't want to waste too much time because they didn't get a ton of
Mhm.
stuff to do. I like that we got a pick. Billy's would have been sick. If Billy would
Yeah,
have got that pick, that would have been an All-American coming out the gates, letting folk know he's a big dog. Solid B, right? Temple's Temple. We do what we're supposed to do. And you're right though. We do got to bring up Boggs. It's like Boz, and then there's the Boggs. Like if the kid does what he can do, he's gonna be a name.
he's gonna decapitate
The
somebody,
Boggs.
man,
It's gonna be the Boggs because he came downhill and was trying to take
brother.
take head bones off. So solid B all around. The defensive unit looked SEC good. I think about LSU tonight. I think about
Mhm.
just watching Missouri. Missouri actually did play really well. I watched a little bit of the Arkansas game. Obviously, we saw Florida. Our guys will be able to hold up in an SEC. I
Yeah,
feel better about our depth than I initially did. We have SEC depth. We have our twos are not going to be some 5'11", 4'5", 40 corner, or some 262-pound three technique. We've got guys we can rotate in and feel good about being competitive and physical in the SEC.
yeah, I'm right there with you. That there's not a single team, save maybe Georgia. And Georgia, we touched on it a little bit pre-show. They're just so assignment sound, and
Yeah.
they do the little things so well that they definitely have more overall defensive talent than Oklahoma, especially on the defensive line. But it really is just the way they play football more than the who sometimes. They remind you of those Alabama teams in that early part of the 2010s, which happened to be also be when Kirby Smart was coaching the defense.
Right, 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 right.
And they just look great offensively. They're about what they were a year ago, I think, maybe a little bit more explosive. Um, but man, that they're gonna still be the team to deal with. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. And when you see the score 51-3, there's a defensive touchdown in there. You got 6 turnovers. It looks like on its face both sides of the ball probably played well. When you start digging into the stats, though, you had short fields on some of the scores. You had really some serious missed opportunities. I don't know if the number 13 was represented as well as it should have been, DMAC, and I
Here you go.
apologize for that. but I mean, it wasn't the worst offensive performance in an opener that we've ever seen.
No.
There were some real bright spots. Dion Burks, as much as the talk was about Brennan Thompson, as much as the talk was about Nick Anderson, and I thought coming out the spring game, sometimes guys, what you see in those games are just what it is, and that's just the reality. And to me, when I saw that and I watched and have seen Brennan Thompson a year ago, who looks better, and I think he's going to get some serious opportunities. Burks is a little mini Antonio Brown playing out there for Oklahoma. He's a guy who can just he can get open. He can create separation when he needs to, which is a big part of just we didn't see Anderson, right? Jaden Gibson's out. You got to have a guy who can consistently get separation. Farouk's going to be out for a time, but even he struggled with that. Burks looked really good. You know, running back, we'll dive into that. We'll talk about Jackson. We'll talk about Hawkins, who also looked really good. Offensive line, though, DMAC, I think is where everybody wants us to start. There's probably some guys along that side of the ball on the line of scrimmage who some fans think should play every down. And there's some guys who play DMAC who the fans think probably shouldn't see the field ever again as a Sooner. And the story is it looks like there's going to be some more beaten bow shuffling, right? You were hoping that this year going into the SEC, he's had time to get it right. He's had time to bring in some freshmen. He's had time to get this thing in the right spot. And yet here we are again watching OU play football in game one. What's going on with the offensive line, DMAC? And this is an area where I think the casual fan doesn't know the intricacies. This is where I think your opinion and what you bring to the table is really valued in this area. Talk a little bit about that, and also losing my guy Branson Hickman, man. That's a big hit. That sucks.
Sprained
But
ankle, sprained ankle, sprained ankle.
well, so it's probably 2-3 weeks.
Depending on how high it is. Oh,
Yeah,
listen, man, O-line wasn't
sorry.
good. You know what I'm saying? Let's not sugarcoat it. They weren't good. They weren't physical. They were bending at the waist. The O-line allowed people to beat them by getting skinny. The O-line allowed people to beat them with speed. The O-line allowed people to just run them into the quarterback. And so the run game itself, I said this on OU Insider, and I think I said it in my 10 thoughts. I noticed we didn't try to run a lot of power football, especially the first three quarters. And at the end of the third and the fourth, when we started running some zone read and we put the younger guys in, we did. I think it's easier. So I listen, I know how we do week one, week two, week three. I know we don't scheme the opponent. All right. So let me just put a couple things to bed. Let me put a couple things to bed. We didn't play well. Offensive and defensive line is a unit battle, the offensive unit versus the defensive line unit, and then it's a man v man battle, right? And so regardless to what I run, if I'm an offensive lineman and I'm on the zone side, right, and we're 3-on-3 or 3-on-4, or we're fanning out whatever we're doing, if that's my job, I'm like, it's kind of like you're talking about with Backer, right? Like I'm just supposed to do my job and kick his ass. Whoever shows up, I got to kick his ass. If somebody's crossing my face, somebody should be coming back the other way. I got to do my proper technique. I got to keep my eyes right inside out on my eyes and do what I'm supposed to do. We had fundamental errors there. But and I think this but is warranted and it's important. Let's just say we were playing Clemson. We would have schemed Clemson. And I saw very early in the game, based upon the way they were playing their defensive front, we could run zone read every play if we wanted to against Clemson, against Temple, if we had schemed to beat what they were taking away and to beat what they were giving us. Does that make sense? So,
Mhm.
I also remember, right? And I think I talked about this in the pod. Our
Yeah.
first season, week one, week two, week three, we didn't even like we would get our scouting report and I'm looking at the guys. Okay, who they got? Da, 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 da. But like, if they showed up in cover two, bump three, whatever they showed up in, we were running the stuff that we wanted to get comfortable running, and we were running the stuff that we wanted our opponents to see. and coach was just like, beat them. So I say that to say, for those of us who think, oh, you know how they say, oh, generally week 4, week 5, he cleans it up. No, week 4, week 5, we're scheming the opponent we're playing against, and we're actually doing something to combat what they're trying to do, right? So I want to make sure we really we're able to parcel that part out, because yeah, coach is going to let them struggle to see if man v man, which guy is going to have some success. And for the most part, a lot of our guys didn't. Uh Brown, is that his name? Left
Yeah,
tackle or right
Spencer
tackle?
Brown.
Holy freaking moly. I know he hated film today. Oh my God, I know he hated film today. I know he did. Cause I mean, he got beat every way. He got cross-faced, across
Yeah,
his face. He got beat with speed on a short corner, and he got sat in JFA's lap 2 or 3 times. And
yeah,
he never extended his hands. He never like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that concerns me. Running scheme didn't concern me as much as it concerns a lot of other people, because, like I said, it was clear to me we were trying to just run stuff versus take what they were clearly giving away to us, right? If the game got close, we knew we could run zone read, we could out leverage them all day. They were giving it to us, which is why in the late in the third and in the fourth quarter, you saw the young pups take advantage of it and have some success. Um, I just think as a unit, they failed. I think if you go across the board and Beatenbow grades those guys, I have not watched the game again to scale them out. And I don't think I will. I generally don't do that. You know this until we get into conference. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
yeah.
going to really spend a ton of time on trying to guesstimate when we're not really scheming. But I did see enough to know that I would say most of those guys did not play with the level of physicality that Beatenbow wants to see,
Hmm.
and cohesion. They just look like 5 dudes trying to figure it out. Everybody's looking around instead of a unit. My recommendation is this week of practice, Beatenbow says we're not doing 10 or 11 like we did week 1. We're doing 7. And whoever has the most assignment sound week, whoever is the most physical this week, and whoever, isn't mentally ready to go, I'm going with those guys. And based on whoever scored the best last week, I think that's your starting 5. Obviously, health comes into play. I know that they sat a couple guys. I think Taylor didn't play and whatever, right? But I don't think we have the luxury to have Tennessee be the first week we shuffle out the group that we think is the group.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that group needs to have the Tulane game as a unit to really get that week of feeling normalcy, so that going into Tennessee there isn't that anxiety and shock. So um I believe this is a big game for us coming up Saturday. I think it's good. I think it's healthy that Houston is probably a little less or underwhelming.
hmm,
They lost. Go figure,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
They're,
so
they're not very good. This isn't Houston 3, 4 years ago.
we
They're
said that
they're
we said that about K-State and got our asses whooped. I went to the game. I think they
That's a
lost to the
fact,
Sisters of the Poor, A&T University Junior College of America for the School for the Blind.
brother.
Beat them like week 1, and then we played them week 4. Yeah, I was at the game, and we couldn't stop the quarterback.
There
How
you
you lose to
go.
the
That's
Sisters of the
true.
Blind, Handkerchief University, A&T Junior College, and then we can't beat you? So, yeah, but I think Houston's an opportunity. I want to see us make a concerted effort to run power football in the first and second quarter. It was very clear they were trying to establish JFA with the quick game, with some of the action game, which I get it too. You want to get the quarterback comfortable. I think, and we'll talk about that, right? But they
Yeah,
wanted Jackson to feel comfortable and run some stuff that made him feel good. Got it. But damn it, we need the running back, we need the lineman to lean and be able to establish a power, a counter, an inside zone, a stretch zone, two gap zone. Give them the opportunity for the running back to stick his foot in the ground and get uphill. We did it. And then we'll talk about running backs too. They still underwhelm me too. So anyway,
we'll get there.
yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
we'll save. I actually receiver wise, they are a group that I watched a little bit intricately. That them and defensive line have been the first group on the watch back that I've really paid attention to. I don't think the receivers were as bad as some of the people made it out to be. I think there were I think there were moments where stuff was there and Jackson did not have time, right? You got to be able to have time. You got to not be looking to immediately get rid of the football. I think there are some guys who probably shouldn't play near as much as others. And Anderson will make a big difference. Andrell still needs to get his feet under him. But before we go into that, because I want to hear your take on the receivers, let's talk running back because it felt like, along with the offensive line, very there was some good, right? There was some good, but very underwhelming at times. We'll save the piece on Taylor Tatum towards the end because I got some stuff to say about him. He's gonna be legit. But Sawchuck, some of the same things we've seen. He not that he dances too much, but he he doesn't quite have that feel for timing and how hard to hit that hole sometimes. And I think that impacts the run game. Barnes, to everybody's credit, in my opinion, he looked very, very explosive, but we talked a little bit about it pre-show. We'll see how much that translates. I'm going to leave you to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things you brought up. We'll see how much that translates to big playmaking in these next few games. Sam Franklin looked good, and I'll save it on Tatum, but touch a bit on running backs, DMAC.
Ho hum, solid 7.5 guys. I think if people ask me what my assessment is, I think Sawchuk needs a clear defined hole at the first level. He's
Mhm.
naturally gifted once he gets past the first level. If there's not a naturally designed crease or hole, he struggles. Barnes he just lumbers to me. He looked healthy, which is good, and he looked physical. He had two
Yeah,
off tackle runs. He's off tackle in the third quarter where he should have scored. He makes a good cut. He cuts up on a
should have
guy.
scored.
He gets to the outside, cuts up, makes a nice, and then it's like Buddy just like touched his shoestring. It's like he like touched him. Like, bro, if you don't high step out of that and score, come on, man. He has another one coming down our sideline again. 8 to 10 yards, good play. It may be a little longer than that, but he just doesn't have it. I watch games relative to his peers on other teams. He about gets you what you're supposed to get. He can kind of get a cut to kind of get you up the field, but you don't see him get much more than what the play was designed to get. And so again, it's just a solid 7.5, 8 guy. Definitely a guy who that doesn't mean he's not going to have some big games, some big plays, and potentially make some stuff happen. He just doesn't have that special it for me. Franklin reminds me of the kid who left for Wisconsin. I forgot his name. When people leave OU, I don't
Oh,
remember their
Tyler
name
Walker.
anymore.
Yeah,
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 just let you know.
yeah.
I won't say his
No,
name
no
because
matter.
yeah. Hey, kid transferred. Well, we replaced him with another one, and so I think running backs are a dime a dozen, and you don't always have to have all the measurables to be a really solid running back. I think the NFL showed
Facts.
everybody that about 15, 20 years ago when they
Yeah.
stopped. AD was kind of like the last, like, okay, we're gonna give him big money, but after him, let's just get 3 or 4 guys in the third through the fifth round because we know one of them are going to hit. Franklin's just one of those guys. You don't have to go get, you know, a 5-star running back. You guys saw the kid from LSU tonight. Emery, whatever his name was like the number one running back, and he's done nothing in 6 years. And tonight he played pretty well, but messed up too. So um, and then there's the pup. Shit, kid's got a bright future.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead
man.
and I'm gonna go ahead and take away your thunder. He's gonna steal somebody's spot. He's gonna take somebody's spot
For
because the kid,
sure. Yeah.
the kid has natural instincts.
He's
He he
coming.
was
Yeah.
he was the best looking. Franklin looked the best, but Franklin's ceiling was about what we saw. Right. So
I
Franklin's a
agree with
guy who's gonna
that.
hit a crease. He's gonna go 30, 40 yards. He might
Yeah.
let us catch a safety blitz in the other way and he bends back and he replaces him and he can go 60,
The
70.
house that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But Tatum, light on his feet, quick cuts. He looked good. I told you this. I see him, and this is just my first impression. One off season, I think he's a top 5 back in college football next season.
Yeah.
He's going to need an off season to really get his college comfortability. But the instincts are already bearing out, and I think they're going to find more and more ways to get him engaged and become a focal point on the offense.
Agree. I'll say it. I think by mid-season, and this may be a little hot take-ish, I think he's going to be your starting running back. I don't see, there are things that he does that I pointed out Tawee Walker a year ago doing. And it's such little things. One, it's just the pace of filling the hole, right? Feeling how things are developing, knowing the timing of that, things that a guy like Kennedy Brooks was just phenomenal at, right? Because Kennedy wasn't necessarily as athletic, quote unquote, as a Sawchuk, maybe even as a Barnes in some respects. Certainly not
Nah.
as explosive, right? But Kennedy, his pacing was great. He
Yep.
had, and this is the part about Tatum that I can just watch them play and tell you one of the three has it and the other one doesn't. And I'll say Franklin has it too. The core strength and balance that Tatum has is just different than every other back that's in that room. His ability to get hit and regain and restabilize is better than Sawchuk, is better than Barnes. Franklin is actually probably the closest of all of them, who coincidentally seems to move the best in certain areas. He just doesn't, as you said, doesn't have that breakaway pop that Tatum does, and Tatum's just a pup. He's got to learn the blocking. He's got to learn the ins and outs of the position. You're probably right. One off season, and he's a top 10, top 5 back in college football for sure in the SEC. Next year, he might be the best back in the SEC next year. It is, there are just
See,
things he does, the way he sets things up in the open field, his vision, the way the game just looks already like it's not moving a gajillion miles an hour when
let's give him
it's
4 weeks.
really.
Let's give him 4 weeks. Let's see him against Tennessee. Let's see him against,
I'm
you know what I'm saying? That's
hot
temple.
take.
Yeah.
He'll be the first running back this he'll be the first running back to get 200 yards this season for OU.
To 200 total or 200 in a
No,
game.
to 200 in a game. He'll be the first
You
one to do it.
you think we're gonna run the ball enough and he's gonna be such a focal point of the running back position that or he's gonna break a couple
No,
50, 60 yarders.
what
You
I
think he's gonna
think, I think the run game is going to struggle. And I think he is going to be the type of player that if Sawchuk takes a long time to get his feet underneath him, like he did a year ago, and just doesn't look right, I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of options.
I'm with you. All I'm saying is 200 yards is also not something you see every day at OU. So
No.
it's going to be, he will have had to got 15, 16, 17 carries. He will have had to take a couple of them 40, 50, 60 yards.
Yep.
And he will have had to basically tell coaches, we ain't rotating every possession. I'm getting, he gonna have to get 50% of the
Yep.
rotations. So, okay, well,
I can't wait till it happens. It's going to be great.
that happens, you the man. That definitely means you're the
Yeah.
man.
We will. I think he's the best back Oklahoma has
I don't think there's an issue with
already.
that.
Already now. And the 200-yard game, man, it might be 8 games into the year. Like it, I don't. The overall point of that is I think he's playing with house money, and he is Oklahoma's future at that position. And then I can see why a guy like, who's the other player who ended up not coming to Oklahoma, that ended up going to LSU, oh my gosh, the other back.
Oh,
Anyways,
don't say that. That's my kid, man.
I
God
know.
damn.
Anyways,
Kid from
yeah.
Dunk. The kid from Dunk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kid
yeah,
from
yeah.
Dunk.
That's right.
He's okay.
But anyways, man, that I think that probably sums it up at the backer spot. Let's talk about receiver and probably leads us into quarterback. I've kind of said enough. Touch on what you saw from the receivers, D-Mac, especially 13. Tell us what you thought about 13.
Come on, man. Chillax. Relax, bro. Hester might sit his ass on. Listen, if those were my years, he'd sit on the bench. Even in that
Mhm.
game. You can't. By the way, the power pass length that he drops, he
Yeah,
might take it 60.
yeah,
He could split the safeties. If the backside, I don't know if it's Thompson. I think it is Thompson. If he blocks that backside corner, eh, that's a touchdown. By the way, that makes Jackson Arnold's numbers. Jackson ended the game with like 142 yards. He should have had
yeah,
250. Easy should have had 250. But so here's my biggest takeaway from the receivers. Brennan's not an X. And Gibson's injury hurts us way more than we initially anticipated. So
yeah.
let me nerd out a little bit. Andrew showed me what I thought, which is he cannot play Z. and he's probably um he's a step behind. He looked real fluid last year. He looked a little laborious on Friday, week 0 or week 1. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I didn't see the explosion with him.
Mm.
Anderson's out. Anderson and Burks is going to be problems. Anderson, Burks, and Bauer is going to be problems. If we had Gibson on the other side, I'm here to tell you we would be cooking because you got 2 6'4" guys
Oh
and you've
man.
got Bauer and Burks. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Brennan is exact. This is just my opinion, man. I'm not changing it. Brennan should be a 3. Brennan should be a little Y who lines up right next to the tackle and runs right at safeties, over routes, post routes, deep corner routes. It's going to be almost impossible to cover him, just like we did last year. I get it. Kids want to be like the action because there's 3 positions. There's X, there's Z, and there's H. X, Z, and slot. And Brennan, to me, did you see his lack of awareness? He runs in
Yeah.
under, he catches the ball, he can just stick his foot in the ground and get the first, and he's trying to outpace everybody, and that's why. So one of our third down conversions is Brennan. It's an easy first. If he's an X and knows I'm a possession receiver, it's my responsibility to get the first, he gets the first. One of our third downs is a terrible spot by the ref. Jackson gets it. He like dives and he's clearly past the line. They even review it. They say he doesn't get it. One of our third downs is Hester drop.
Yep. On the drop. Yep.
By the way, the bomb is a drop. Jackson
Oh,
throws a
completely a drop.
perfect pass. It's a
Diving.
perfect pass.
It's a
He just
drop.
he didn't, he doesn't catch it.
That's a
Um,
drop. Yeah.
let's get back to Thompson because I don't want to beat the kid up, but like he runs the. Remember we talked about it. X receiver is going to run that slant, that fade, that under, that curl, right, and that speed out. He
Mm.
runs the fade, and I get it. He's trusting his speed, and you could tell on that play. They're like, "Hey, dude, everybody chill out. We're gonna go ahead and take it over the top with Thompson." And Buddy's in his fucking pocket. The DB is like, "Hey man, how much money you got in your pocket?" Like he literally
Shoot, that's hilarious.
he
Okay.
literally checking his pockets, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he just tried to run with speed. And again,
Mm.
that's the type of speed you want running at a safety.
At a
Corners know how
safety.
to flatten you out. They know how to get that chicken wing on you and it nullifies that speed. And they're slowly creeping that angle to the
Mhm.
sideline and pushing you out of bounds. And that's exactly what happened. And that doesn't mean he can't improve, but
Mhm.
gosh dang, stick Anderson over there and let him go work. Stick Burke
Yeah.
at Z and let him go work. Stick Bauer at Y and let him go work and let Brennan be a mismatch against safeties and backers. To me, he
Yeah.
creates problems. Of course, Farouk going down and having 2 months to rehab his foot is problematic because he runs a great route. Jackson throws him a great ball, and you see, you know, what he brings to the table. And by the way, he looked faster. I was
He
like, oh,
did. He
Farouk
did.
looked
He
so he
did.
looked yeah.
He
I
looked
was like, oh,
lighter on the feet. He
yeah.
looked
I was
like
like,
he
ooh,
dropped a little bit of weight
yeah.
too.
I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
Farouk out here
It's the
looking
best
saucy.
he's looked. Yeah.
So it sucks. I'm afraid, man. Injuries could mount up. If Anderson is kind of hampered, it's problematic because now
For sure.
you've only got Burke and Howard, or Burke and Bauer, excuse me, and we don't really have any other defined. I don't know if Anthony is going to be able to bring it. Hester's going to have to show up, and he don't
Yeah.
make 13 look sweet. I'm just telling you, he don't make 13 look sweet, man. That's hurt me. I'd rather
Yeah.
have a kicker. I'd rather have the kicker be 13. I'd rather have the kicker be 13, bro.
Oh
You gonna
God,
play
that's
with you? You
hilarious.
can't be a receiver, rock 13 and drop the rock, man. Don't go
I'm
back and look
done.
at my old school highlights. I ain't dropping the rock, bro. We don't drop this another. We had another 13 who was all right, that receiver too. He better not.
Oh
I'm a, I'm a,
man.
I'm a, I'm a tag his ass on Twitter, bro. Like, hey man,
Shoot.
let me have a
I'd rather
conversation with you. You know,
I'd
if we got
rather
a
the
13
kicker
on
be
defense,
13.
the punter, bro, long snapper, something. Make a contribution, man. We need you to make a
Oh
contribution.
man.
God dang. Receivers were extremely average. By the way, running backs, receivers each got a C minus for me. The
Mhm.
pups showed some promise. I think it's Tatum. Oh no, it's Franklin. Franklin scores a touchdown if Raggins blocks on the backside. Ah,
Yeah.
true freshman, small kid. You know
That's
what I'm
the
saying?
young, yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
looked little, man. He looked little at
He looks
times.
small.
Yeah,
Um, Anything else? I think it's important. The thing that I really took away from every obviously making fun of Hester. Sorry, Hester, bro. If you hear this,
yeah,
too bad, bro. Catch the damn football. Brennan Thompson is a kid who can bring a lot to the table, but I think he's a sub package guy. I don't think he's an X. Anthony is a
yeah.
guy who he's gonna have to work himself back into form. He looked rusty. Um, gosh, and Anderson, Gibson, Burke, and Bauer would have been problems. Oh,
Problems.
that would have been
Agreed.
problem. Oh, that would have been We could have high point everybody. You know what I'm saying? We got high point at X, we got high point at Y, and high point at Z, and then Burke is cooking. Oh, it's
Yeah.
been issues. Carry on. Carry on didn't look terrible. He had an 80s number, that
I was
that
gonna bring
80s.
him up. He didn't look bad. And I think him playing is a product of losing Gibson
For
to an
sure.
extent. It
For
doesn't feel like
sure.
he probably plays as early in that game if Gibson's playing
100%. And Farouk. Farouk goes down
and
too.
for
So Um, Petaway, man. I was waiting to see what was gonna be the what of the what. Next 2 weeks, I'll be on Petaway watch to see when he
yeah.
first is in the game. And last year they were finding ways to get him the ball because he was a highly recruited receiver.
Mm,
This year he was just kind of like, hey,
yeah,
bro,
figure it out.
go out there and block somebody. And so
Yeah, figure it
we'll
out.
see. Yeah, we'll see what he brings to the table next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you on Thompson. I think you worded it very well. He just I'm glad that that stuff out of camp, came out and it seemed like he really progressed. But there is a level of like, man, when live bullets are flying and you're in the game situation, my concern a year ago was I didn't think he had the side to side foot in the ground,
Mm,
choppy step. I didn't. It's not that he doesn't look fluid in the drills, but there is a certain way to when you watch a Dion Burke. I guarantee if you saw it up close too, you can tell even better, right? See, you can't really see it on Twitter. It's very hard unless you're up close and personal, but Dion Burks, the way he chops those feet, man, the way he drops his hips, the way he gets in and out of his breaks, it is just different. He's a guy who can play those multiple positions, right? He's a guy who just easy separation. Anderson has gotten better since he's been at Oklahoma, but he naturally has just better fluidity to his movement. He's more explosive when the foot hits the ground. Brennan Thompson is great from a straight line start, as you said, shooting out and going forward and just getting vertical, which is why I love the talk about, just putting him, matching him up against a safety is best. I don't know. You're right, man. I don't know if he's the long-term answer for them as a guy who they, need to go get a third down, need to get to the sticks and get 9 yards. I think that guy's probably Burks or it's Anderson, or it's, a guy like Sharp, who to me, OU probably has, and we talked about it a little bit.
Whoa,
They
whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on,
probably
I have a question. I have a question. I have a question.
go for
What
it.
what's the hell is the tight end's name? It's not Bauer.
Bauer Sharp.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, baby, baby. Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
scared me.
you're
Okay,
right.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Bauer,
You know how we make.
another
You know how we
Jared,
making names up. You
Jared
know how we.
Jackson. No,
You know how I'm quick to make a name up.
you're
Okay,
right. It's
baby, baby.
Bauer.
Yeah.
Bauer
Okay,
Sharp.
good.
He's got
Okay,
he's
good.
got two last names.
Okay,
He's
cool,
got
cool,
two
cool.
last names. Yeah, no, you're dead on. Let's talk about Jackson real quick, man. It's a game where I think if everybody else around him had played better. I don't think he was the culprit for why the team didn't look great. I think that goes a little bit on everyone. I think it's offensive line. I think it's receiver. I think it's running back. I think he looked really good on his feet. I actually think he got a little bit faster this past offseason. He looked a little more explosive, looked a little leaner, just more put together. Jason White, from when he first got to Oklahoma, by like how he looked 2003, 04, just looked like a better athlete. He didn't move like a better athlete, but the look, the sturdiness, the cuts, all that stuff, very solid. Give your take on Jackson, man. I thought he had an okay first outing. Wasn't the worst outing again, for a quarterback taking the reins. but probably still left a little bit to be desired. And he missed a few things out there that he probably should have hit.
People are bugging. Kid played well. He held onto the ball too long in some situations where you could tell he felt uncomfortable with his line. Let me tell you what the issue was.
Mm-hmm.
The kid felt uncomfortable with having enough time to do progression because of his offensive line. Aside from that, he threw a freaking nerf to Farouk, beautiful ball.
Yeah.
He threw a freaking nerf to Hester, went right through his hands. I'm talking about the one
Two
down the
of them.
side, the one down the
Oh, down the
sideline.
sideline.
I'm talking about that's a
Yeah.
perfect pass. He throws a changeup, a layered throw where it has to go over the backer and falls right into the lap of Burke. And Burke literally jumps and he literally jumped in the air and like fell on his back. He could just caught it like this, but he
Yeah.
he jumped and like those are throws Dylan Gabriel can't do in his sleep.
The
He
first
can't.
touchdown to Sharp was actually pretty impressive too. That
He,
was a that's
it's a
a
changeup. It's a changeup. It's a
yes.
layer throw. It's a changeup. Those are throws that Dylan can't do in his sleep. Let alone he's two
Yeah.
inches shorter and throws kind of 3/4, so the ball never gets a chance. Like the layer throw has to come from over the top. When you have a kind of sidearm, it's really hard to do a layer throw. Uh, the kid ran decently. He ran good. He ran
He
good.
did.
He got put in a situation where he never felt comfortable with his offensive line, and therefore he pressed a little bit. He shouldn't have taken a couple sacks, which I agree with. But the kid played well. Are you kidding me? I was extremely excited about the prospects of our offense because he can go win us a game.
Mhm.
And regardless to again, listen, Barry, if we had schemed Temple, we would have ran the same 5 plays that they would have been giving us, and we would have got 400 yards. Like it was.
Yeah.
Listen, go watch when the pups come in, and they're running the stuff that Temple's giving us when the pups come in.
Mhm.
We didn't run those plays with our starters for the most part. For the most part, we had some stuff that we tried to do, but no, Jackson played well. He wasn't a stud star MVP of the day. Kid throws 4 touchdowns. He throws different styles touchdowns. He understands getting in the pocket, pushing up into the pocket, getting outside of the pocket. He ran into a couple of problems for himself in terms of kind of running into the angle that could give the defensive
Yeah.
lineman a chance to get him. But dude, Brown didn't do no damn favors. The backup center
No
didn't do no damn
favors.
favor. The whole right side didn't do him no favors, and he felt it. And so he was pressing a little bit. And I get it; it's understandable. Not making excuses for him. And it's funny because I see all these conversations about Dylan, and we saw what Dylan did. He put up the numbers, but damn, the team didn't do it. They underwhelmed.
Yeah.
That offense underwhelmed because Dylan did not make the throws that we saw Jackson make Friday. Jackson's a guy who can get us a chance to go beat an LSU, to go beat a Tennessee, because
Yeah.
he's going to be able to make a play or be an athlete or make a throw that, because it's not schemed perfectly, you've got to actually put a little zip or over the top of someone, or to 3rd and 7, and the defensive end is labor. He can beat him to the edge. Um, Jackson's our starter. Since we're
Yeah.
talking Q's, Hawkins, holy shit, he's got some stuff.
He's legit.
He's got some but did you see him throw the ball? He didn't
Yeah.
have a layer throw. A kid can throw the ball.
Mhm.
He can throw it. He can throw the rock. But you can see the natural arm talent in terms of, or I don't want to say talent, experience in throwing the different types of throws you're going to see versus coverage.
Mhm.
That's where you saw he tried to zing one in there where he really could have just took a little off and put a little loft on it, and he could have got a completion. But him in the zone read,
It's nasty.
he we got to play him, because if we don't play him, he might
Yeah.
transfer. He's got to play.
I bet you there are some goal line packages set up with him. I bet you there's some stuff, some option stuff on 4th and 2, that kind of thing. The option looked good with him and Tatum, and it
That
looked
speed
solid.
option. That speed option was
Yeah,
nice.
man, it looked really good. And you're right. If you got a tool like that, if you got a guy back there who could run in that way, and you're in a big game and you need to get a 4th and 2, and it just feels like the right call. Hopefully it's not against Georgia in the Rose Bowl, and then well, whenever
If
that
we're
was
playing
now at
Georgia,
this
we did
point.
something right. I'm down. If we're playing
Hey,
Georgia, we did
man,
something right. The only
there you
way we
go.
play Georgia is an SEC championship or
That's
playoff.
a
So
good
I'm with
point.
it. I'm with it.
Man, speaking of Georgia, great segue. Before we get out of here today, DMAC, let's touch on just what you thought now that OU is officially SEC and we are officially an SEC podcast. No
You
longer,
sounds like you like that a little bit more than I do. Sounds to me
and
like you.
man, it's legit. It's legit. It's an upgrade, DMAC. It is an
If you s-
upgrade.
if you
It is
say
an
so.
upgrade.
We'll
It is
see.
an
We'll see.
upgrade.
We'll see.
We'll
We'll see.
see. Let's talk about where we think Oklahoma fits into this thing after seeing the first week. Obviously, it's really tough to gauge. LSU loses tonight to USC. Good football game. I think USC probably a little bit better than what people gave them credit for coming into this year. They still have not recruited great. Lincoln has recruited like you recruited Oklahoma. It's good enough,
That's
right?
facts. That's
It's good
facts.
enough.
That's
Um,
facts.
LSU, maybe not near as good. You lose a superstar quarterback and you're just a different team, right? You lose a guy like that who's a not generational talent, but a really, really, really good player. But Alabama looks solid. Georgia took care of business big time. Tennessee looks good. Missouri, the OU fans are going to bring the hate. Missouri has some talent on both sides of the ball. That they really do. They got some guys who can play some ball. A receiver, they're stacked, man. They got some. You're gonna need when OU goes to Columbia to play them. You're gonna need every bit of the length of a Kanai Walker, a Des Malone, a Dason McCullough getting out there in the flats, a guy, an Omasigo who's ready to play. You're gonna need those guys. You're gonna need a defensive line that can get upfield, a Grayson Halton getting upfield, a PJ living up to his capability. Where do you think OU fits right now if you were going to just kind of handicap the SEC, who you think is winning the conference based on week one? You're kind of way too much overreaction. Where do you think the Sooners fit?
We're right in the middle of the road, and I think middle of the road is means you have the ability to win 9 to 10 games, or I'd say 8 to 10 games. We have a hard schedule, and it is what it is. I think my biggest concern, obviously, aside from the offensive line, uh, you you've got to give Beanbo the benefit of the doubt to say he generally figures it out, and you've got to understand that OU's philosophy is to tinker with the scheme and those position groups, weeks 1, 2, and 3. So it's not an accident. Week 4 and 5, they look better. It's because they defined who their core group is, and they've schemed the opponent we're playing those weeks. But here's the other thing that I just 2 weeks ago felt really comfortable with, and after watching that game, I'm like, oh shit, we've got Jags at running back. I'm watching a ton of other schools, and I got to tell you, the running backs like make plays. They don't just that you don't have to scheme plays. The running back can make a play, and gosh, Sawchuk has games where he's killer, and then he has games where it's like, bro, he's nullified, and then of course Barnes,
Uh,
as far as I'm concerned, he's kind of just a um anyway. So
is who he is. He is
playmaker
who
at
he is, man.
playmaker at running back is a little concerning to me. The injuries are mounting up with Gibson being down for the season and now Farouk
Mm.
being down for half the season minimum. And then he's got to return. And then Anthony coming back from a season ending injury and trying to get reacclimated, right? That one more injury and we're in trouble in an area where we thought we had a ton of depth. The receiver position, and of course, Anderson sat out because he's got some hamstring or hip flexor thing, right? That's going on. And so receiver and running back guys to make plays. Listen, Bauer, I'm in. By the way, I'm buying stock.
Yeah.
If he has 2 years in 2 seasons, he could be a guy who plays on Sunday. Burks is a guy who's going to be a volume stud. He just Sterling Shepard, Mark Clayton. You know, I don't even Ryan Broyles was really good, but in an era where his skill set was paramount. Ryan Broyles in this era, he would struggle a little more because the game's a little more physical, right? Their air raid offenses were so far ahead of defense then. Everybody just went to a real big vanilla cover 5, cover 7, 4, and just real big. And Brian, one of his best skill sets is the feel for coverage. So he could feel the open spot. And of course, he had Landry who could drill it in there. And before that, he had Sam. He had really good quarterbacks. Um, but Burks gives me MC Sterling, short, powerfully built guys, yak guys. You can't just jam them. But then again, if you play off, they'll kill you underneath. So I'm excited about him. He's a true playmaker for us. We
Yeah.
just need Anderson to stay healthy. Um,
Yeah.
we need Brennan to be, if Anderson's healthy, it forces Brennan to be a sub package guy because they still want to play him. And I think that's where Brennan really helps us. I'm just telling you, Brennan's a guy who could be a problem for defenses. And if you've got Brennan running through the defense and you've got Sharp running over the middle and you've got Burke right replacing, we're flooding. By the way, first I want to nerd out on the play. Go watch the touchdown to Burks' first touchdown. We run a
Oh, his
flood
first
concept.
one. Okay.
Burks, we run a flood concept on the middle backer. It's the play design is so sick. We have Burks in the slot, and I think we have Sharp in the slot, or Burks on the tight end side. And I think what I think happens, I don't remember. I just saw it live. I was like, wow, that's such a smart play. But they high low the middle backer. Burke is or Bauer runs something away, which is smart, and then Burke is coming up right underneath it. But watch the running back. I don't know if it's Tatum. It might be Tatum because Tatum came in fairly early in the game. But whoever the running back is leading up through the hole. He's doing a circle. So he's in the backfield, but at the hike of the ball, he's running and he's stressing the backer because backers read back to their other assignment, right? They take their restep, they see back. If it's run, they go attack back. If it's pass, they sink. Well, when he takes his read step, whoever the back is, Sachuk, Tatum, whoever, they're attacking him. He has to respect it. Right in front of him is Burks, who's running that slant stop right behind him. The plate is, and then you've got Bauer clearing it out, running the corner. So the safety has to stay on top of the corner, has to stay over there. I mean, it's such a beautiful play design. It's like, man, that's football. That backer was in a no-win situation. If the backer sinks, you just throw it to Tatum. He walks in because they got to cover the 0 yard line, not 6 yards deep. Of course, you've got Burke 6 yards deep, and you just throw a nice change up over the backer's head. It's a beautiful touchdown. That's the kind of stuff that you're just gonna see Burks do. So we look at our team. I know I kind of nerded out. My bad. I apologize.
Oh, good, man.
But I mean, Georgia would be problematic. If Georgia was on the if Georgia was on, if Georgia was on the schedule in September, I'd be concerned. Alabama, I said this off camera. They got defensive guys in the bones, our defense, because they've had Saban around for 15, 20 years. So the defense, it's not going to be as dynamic. But the Boers offense was dynamic in a way where Saban had those years where he had the receivers coming out, Judy and Watts and those guys, and then they had Tua, right? That the quarterbacks who were churning out. But really, that Boer is like the nuance of offense.
Yeah.
Nebraska, Bama's going to be scary. Bama is actually built, I think, to be more competitive against Georgia because, right, Georgia was just kind of like a 2.0 version of Bama. And
Mhm.
Kirby was like, I kind of know what Saban's tendencies are. And so I can beat him at the things he's a creature of habit to. The boy is going to give them a totally different thing to worry about. And so it's going to make for cool matchups. I think Bama and Georgia are the cream of the cream. I think Texas, OU, Tennessee, Missouri solid.
Yeah. Kind of
Can't
right
knock
there.
Missouri. I think Ole Miss, that five, those group of five. Of those five, I think we showed the least best. We showed the least best. Our offensive line not giving our quarterback a comfortable pocket, even in some quick game stuff, it's problematic. And so that's an
Mm.
easy fix against Houston. And then it's a good test against Tulane.
Tulane gonna be a test. I think Tulane's not gonna be. I think they still beat Tulane by 2 or 3 touchdowns, 3 or 4 touchdowns. But I think that is going to be It's probably gonna be a little closer early on than people want it to be.
I agree. And I think our defense, we're going to get more accustomed to seeing our offense play complementary football to our defense, which is good. We need to do that. We don't need to be so risque on offense because we don't trust our defense. We have a defense we can trust. We can
Yeah.
punt the ball. That's okay. We can be conservative sometimes and parts of the game. That's okay. We can protect field position certain times of the game. Like it's been so long since we've done that. We can't get, like I said, like some of the decisions that Jackson made didn't make the terrible play, and for that I don't have an issue with him. But I think of that five, we probably showed the least best, but we still showed plenty. And defense travels, right? And week one, generally, when you're breaking in a new coordinator, it's our first week with our new coordinator. You're not gonna have the continuity of hype in his fourth year, right? Running his same stuff. Um, the Mr. Madman and Ole Miss, right? Fourth, fifth year running his stuff. Those guys all been running their stuff. Those guys and those programs know their stuff. DeBoer was just the one who was like, damn, they came out the gates, and the nuances on offense were legit. So we look cool. Oregon was not impressive. By the way,
Yeah.
The Big Ten is, the Big 12 is so cute. Little buttoned little conference.
Man,
They
they
just
they are cute.
little cute
Yeah.
little conference. ACC, Miami looked good.
Miami's legit. I think Miami's legit.
Virginia Tech got their ass beat by Vandy.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
Shout out
so
Vandy.
yeah, SEC,
No,
SEC.
no, I'm not going that far.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I
That's
thought that's what
hilarious.
I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought that was what I was
One
supposed to do.
game in. It took us one game.
Oh, you know me. You know that was sarcastic. That was tongue in cheek,
Oh yeah.
sarcasm, all the shit. I've
Nah,
never.
for sure. For sure. Well, awesome stuff. Man, well, we're gonna keep rolling it out for you guys. Definitely a game where it felt like there was a little bit left on the table for the Sooners, but it'll be interesting how they bounce back. And maybe a lot of the stuff goes away after they play Houston. Maybe Sooner fans feel a little bit different. I will be at that game. That is the plan. So
Yo,
I'll
I'm
get to
probably
see him
going.
live. You
I'm
are?
probably going.
Okay. Then we'll mix it up. We'll figure it out. But before we get out of here today, want to give a shout out to OU Insider, OUinsider.com. Go over there, check out everything they're doing. Live game threads. The insider football talk is great. If you want to get updates on injuries before anybody else knows, if you want to get just all the little ins and outs of the game, D-Mac's over there, I'm over there, Drum, Thune, everybody does a fantastic job just letting everybody know what's going on in Soonerland. When basketball season kicks around, they're going to be dropping stuff. Told you guys a year, softball, best coverage bar none. You need to go over there and get yourself an OU Insider membership, ouinsider.com, a part of Rivals. I will say, man, DMAC, one of the things that's cool. I love the OU Insider logo being on our stuff, but man, having that little Rivals logo up that's kind of legit. So I'll take it. DMAC, any parting words before we get out of here today, man?
Specials. I just want to speak to those real quick. Kicker looked good. Both kicks were
Kicker
true.
look real good.
240 plus yard field goals. I think one was a 50 yarder, 51 yarder, 42
Yeah,
yarder, something
Keltner,
like
man.
that. We'll see what happens with Bowen.
Bowen had some spots.
We'll
I
see.
don't.
We'll see.
Well,
Well, it's wait and see. It's wait and see. It's wait
he'll
and
get
see.
there. He'll get
He's a
there.
natural catching it, so we'll see what he can do with it. Um,
Yes, he's the best I've seen catching punts since probably Sterling Shepard.
he's very natural back there catching it.
Yeah,
Definitely can't hate on
it
that.
doesn't. Drake just scared the living daylights out of me every time,
No, the
man.
other kid, my
Who's it?
Freeman's kid. Freeman's kid. Oh
Freeman.
God. Holy
That's
freaking
right.
moly.
Freeman.
Sheesh.
That's what it was.
Specials were
Yeah.
good. I think we need to mention that. The stadium looked good. I heard it was semi-quiet, but it was one of those games where the offense
Ho
wasn't
hum.
dynamic enough to really get folk excited, and then there wasn't a
Yeah.
lot of competition. Um, yeah, man, let's keep it moving. Um, Fans, thank you guys. You guys are dope. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
have a ton of fun with this. Now is the time where I spend a lot of time paying attention. So I'll be commenting on the
Yeah.
YouTube. I
Let's
don't even
go,
listen to
man.
the Spotify and the Apple anymore. I mean, I know we still have that cooking, but I don't even really pay much
Man,
attention to it.
124 ratings in on Apple DMAX, still a 4.9 star rating.
Okay,
That
cool.
is so. Hey guys, let's keep that 4.9.
See,
A
don't even speak about
five.
it. Don't even speak about it. Just let's just keep it moving. You know what I'm saying?
Keep
We
it
just
moving.
mind it. We just minding our business. We just
There
minding
we
our business.
go.
Yeah,
There
just
we
minding our
go.
business.
Shoot ya.
Nah, but it's been a good time. We're at with
Yeah,
season, man. So I'm excited to see some of the
big time.
games and the level of competition pick up. I'm not looking forward to a game if we lose. People are already acting crazy and we won by 50. So
Yeah, man.
let's keep winning. Let's get a win streak going and man, let's go kick some ass, bro. Let's have fun with the ball.
Absolutely, man. Get BB to 18-10. Here we go. Sooner Nation, thank you so much for tuning in to the Barry and Mack Show, and we will see you soon.